This man is a former CIA agent with exceptional assassin skills. He chose to retire on a small island in Italy, but evil began to emerge in this place, prompting him to return to his assassin's path once again to protect the locals. Lorenzo is a drug lord in the southern part of Italy. When he returned to his mansion, he was shocked to see the corpses of his subordinates scattered everywhere. He walked to the last room where a man named Robert was calmly sitting on a chair with guns pointed at his head by two of Lorenzo's bodyguards. Robert said that he come here to retrieve a thing that Lorenzo had stolen from someone else. He gave the drug lord exactly 9 seconds to return it, but not only did he not return it, he also cursed Robert. That's when Robert quickly and decisively took action, dealing with all 3 men at once. He even stuck the gun barrel through the eye socket of one of the henchmen to shoot down the drug lord. With the exceptional skills of a former government assassin, none of the gang members could survive. Robert then went outside with a backpack and found Lorenzo's son, sparing his life. However, it was the very child who shot him in the back with a gun, but he still spared the child and let him go. Robert attempted to drive away but eventually lost consciousness in the middle of the road with a severe wound in his back. Fortunately, Gio, a local police officer, discovered him and rushed him for medical treatment. There, he received dedicated care from Dr. Enzo, which ultimately saved his life. It seemed like Dr. Enzo knew that Robert wasn't an ordinary person, but chose to overlook it because he believed Robert was a good man. Although he narrowly escaped death's door, Robert had to stay there to recover for a while. He later contacted a new CIA agent named Emma to inform her about the drug shipments hidden in illegally imported wine bottles from Syria, stored at Lorenzo's mansion that he had eliminated earlier. There, they also discovered a stash of money, indicating that this wasn't the first shipment. Their next task was to find the buyer. Emma quickly located Robert's position. She wanted to find out who Robert was because he seemed like a shadow, with no information about him in the system. She also wanted to understand why Robert was willing to help a stranger like her. Robert just laughed and told her that she would gradually understand everything and advised her to focus on finding Lorenzo's customers. During his recovery in this small town, the locals treated Robert very well. When he went to buy fish, the store owner gave it to him for free, and the restaurant owner took him to enjoy delicious local dishes. It seemed that the kindness of the people had warmed his heart, which had been cold for so long. After Robert's long journey of eliminating evil, with hands stained with blood, he found a sense of peace for the first time in this place and didn't want to leave anymore. But Robert discovered that the local people here had to regularly pay protection money to a gang of thugs. They brutally beat anyone who refused to pay for protection, and these thugs even went as far as setting fire to and destroying a fish shop. At the police station, Gio was diligently investigating the cause of the arson and noticed that the people in the black van had deliberately set fire to the fish shop, so he immediately reported it to his superiors. However, Gio's actions put him and his family in grave danger because those thugs had significant backing and protection. They immediately captured Gio's wife and daughter, threatening and assaulting him. They warned him not to pursue their activities any further, or next time, they would harm his daughter. The 3 of them could only hold each other and cry. Gio went to Dr. Enzo's house for treatment, and there Robert witnessed the tragic plight of the man who had saved his life. He went into Enzo's room and asked him about the cause of the incident. Enzo explained that the entire situation was orchestrated by Vincent, a ruthless mafia boss and willing to do anything to achieve his goals. He had set his sights on this small town and wanted to turn the entire town into a resort complex featuring casinos and entertainment venues. Since the locals refused to be displaced elsewhere, the mafia boss heartlessly executed his dirty plans by ordering his younger brother, the one who had attacked Gio's family and terrorized the town, until the residents couldn't take it anymore and had to leave. In the evening after, Gio took his wife and daughter out for dinner. They encountered Vincent's younger brother, who came to disrupt their family. He demanded that Gio go all the way to Somalia in Africa to carry out a mission for him. Gio was deeply worried and stressed, unsure of how to respond to this unreasonable request. However, Robert, sitting at a nearby table, kept a steady gaze on the thug. The thug immediately became furious and stormed over to Robert's table, hurling insults at him. However, Robert remained calm and warned him not to continue terrorizing the locals. Still, the thug didn't listen and even laughed loudly with his gang. When it went beyond the limits of tolerance, Robert quickly twisted the thug's arm and pressed on a nerve in the palm of his hand, causing him extreme pain and forcing him to comply with Robert's demand to leave with his gang. Robert then instructed him to leave his gun behind and chased him away. To Gio's surprise, Robert calmly continued his meal. Outside, Vincent's younger brother became furious and planned with his gang to eliminate Robert. However, before they could take any action, Robert unexpectedly launched an attack. He quickly subdued the henchman and confronted Vincent's younger brother. He drew a knife to fight Robert, but with Robert's exceptional skills, he easily disarmed him with his bare hands and then used the very knife to end his life. The next morning, the police arrived to process the crime scene and discovered packages of drugs inside the mafia's van, which made Robert realize that Vincent was the buyer. Emma went to the police station in Naples and requested the police chief to allow her to interrogate some criminals believed to be connected to the drug network. He agreed to let her access only one of the 4 files. Emma then interrogated the criminal and obtained some valuable information from him. Immediately, a special task force was dispatched, but it turned out that they arrived at the hideout of a terrorist group, not Vincent's base. It turns out that the police chief was working with Vincent. He attended the funeral of Vincent's younger brother with the primary purpose of requesting Vincent to temporarily halt his activities, because the US CIA had begun to trace Vincent's activities. However, Vincent ignored this request and demanded that the police chief handle everything on his own, while also pressuring him to quickly find the murderer of his younger brother. When the police chief began to show resistance, Vincent immediately punished him by cutting off his hand as a gruesome warning for his disobedience. Then he took the police chief to a car along with an ice bucket containing his severed hand. While getting into the car, Vincent reminded him to investigate the culprit urgently, or next time he would be beheading him instead of just cutting off his hand. Emma was on her way to her car when she received a call from Robert, informing her that her investigation had gone in the wrong direction. It wasn't the terrorists, but rather the mafia boss Vincent, who was behind the drug trafficking network. Just as she ended the call, a bomb suddenly exploded in her car, thanks to Robert's phone call, which allowed her to avoid the explosion. Although she narrowly escaped the disaster, the injuries she sustained required her to be hospitalized, causing her investigation to be put on hold. She had a vague suspicion that the bomber was none other than one of Vincent's men. On that night, Vincent mobilized all his forces and descended upon Robert's small town. He used Gio and his family to threaten the townspeople into revealing the killer of his younger brother. Faced with the silence of the locals, he shot Gio in the ear and threatened to kill both mother and child if they didn't confess. At this point, Robert had no choice but to reveal himself and tell Vincent that he was the one who had killed his younger brother. It seemed that this time he had accepted that he would risk his own life to bring peace to the town and its kind-hearted residents. Just as Vincent was about to strangle Robert, Dr. Enzo stopped Vincent with his gun and threatened him to leave. At the same time, the townspeople began to show their unity by taking out their phones to record and live stream Vincent's actions. Faced with the solidarity of the townspeople, Vincent had no choice but to leave. As for Robert, he appeared to be contemplating something that could bring an end to this situation. After returning to his mansion, Vincent and his gang immediately planned to eliminate Robert the following morning with all their hatred and vengeance. Vincent went to bed, while his loyal henchmen kept watch. Robert, like a shadow, swiftly ended his life with 2 knife strikes from behind. He used a suppressed gun to eliminate one of the men inside. 3 men on the upper floor were playing cards when the power suddenly went out, causing one of them to investigate. They all met the same fate, falling down with 3 bullets through their heads. Even the man monitoring security cameras on his computer couldn't escape his fate as a sharp iron rod pierced through his throat from behind. He crawled out to seek help from his comrades, but to his surprise, Robert had used a wire to strangle his comrades to death. At this point, only Vincent remained in the mansion. He woke up, lifted his head to look at the ceiling, and saw his dead henchman's body dropped down, which startled him and caused him to fall out of bed. Vincent was horrified and shouted for his henchmen to come, unaware that they were already dead. Holding a machine gun in his trembling hands, he fired it in a chaotic frenzy until he ran out of ammunition. It was at this moment that Robert appeared. Robert struck Vincent unconscious and then made him swallow numerous drug pills, gradually inducing a fatal drug overdose. He even cut the ties, allowing Vincent to flee in desperation. Meanwhile, Robert followed at a leisurely pace, making the remaining moments of Vincent's life a struggle of agony and fear. In the end, in a grim alleyway, the once powerful mafia boss met his permanent demise, lying lifeless on his back. The next day, the news reported that a series of Vincent's accomplices had been arrested. While Emma was in her hospital bed watching the news, Robert entered with a bag on his shoulder. There, he revealed the reason for his presence in southern Italy. It turns out he had crossed the borders to this region to recover the retirement money stolen by Lorenzo from an elderly man whom he had once driven in his taxi. Robert then asked Emma for help in completing the mission by returning the bag containing over $360,000 of the elderly man's retirement funds. Afterward, Emma flew to the city of Boston in the United States, where she delivered the retirement funds to the elderly couple, bringing them great joy. Upon her return to the CIA office, the young agent received a package from Robert. Inside was her mother's diary, along with a note saying that her mother would surely be proud of her. Emma's mother, Susan, was none other than Robert's close friend, who had sacrificed her life earlier. At this moment, Emma finally understood why Robert had contacted her to help her in the effort to dismantle the drug ring in Italy. Emma was promoted, marking a significant step in her career. Meanwhile, in the small town in southern Italy, Robert and the locals enjoyed simple moments of happiness in their lives.
This is the end of the movie. If you enjoy it, please like and subscribe to support my channel. Thank you for watching.